We're back with more Cainhurst Castle stuff. It's the Bloodborne board game Cainhurst Castle expansion, which I've been doing for the past 5 weeks. This is number 6. It is the Vileblood Knight with the sort of Sekiro Sir Alonne looking dude from the castle. And to start off, we're going to do the same as what we've done before. We've got the clean, we've got the dirty water, keep them separate. We've got the kitchen roll for any of your spillages and to wipe your brush off on. We've got the wet palette with the horrible sponge, I know. Get it nice and soaked up, pop on a wet palette sheet, and to get rid of your wrinkles, keep it flat, keep it nice and even, take a card, iron out those kinks. Once that's done, we're ready to paint, and we're going to start off by priming him black. There we go, lovely jubbly. Once he's primed black, we're going to get our airbrush, we're going to get this horrible painted mat that I've already got ruined. Take some airbrush thinner, take some airbrush cleaner. If you're feeling fancy, take some flow improver. I don't use it because I haven't bought it yet. Pop some thinner in, I use white ink, you can pop acrylic in, you can pop whatever you want as long as it paints white in. Give it a blowback, and we're ready to start painting. Pop it on a makeshift holder, or if you have a holder, use that. I have a cork with some blue tack because I can't find my holder, and just start spraying it from a higher up point of view, and making sure you're getting the higher points highlighted first, making sure you're keeping the darker points darker, and you get a beautiful contrast ready to work with contrast paints. So the first of many contrast paints we've got Blood Angel's Red, which is a wonderful, lovely, strong pigmented red colour, perfect for Bloodborne because it's got blood in the name. That's how I like to paint my stuff, it's gotta make sense. So starting off, I'm painting the cape with the red, making sure it's, not too strong, making sure it's relatively thinned out so that I do have a fair amount of the contrast remaining underneath from the Zenithal Prime, so it basically makes the white points seem more vibrant, making the darker points seem more unvibrant, darker, basically. Retaining the contrast within the colour is the main point of it. Then we can take some Basilicanum Grey, which will be our sort of main armour base, and I'm just going to paint that all over the metal parts. So this will act as our sort of main undercoat that we'll start adding colours on top of. And the fantastic thing with this colour is it works wonderfully with Zenithal highlight underneath, because the black seems black and the brighter points still have the Basilicanum Grey colour on it, but still seem a fair amount brighter. It's basically like you're applying colour with Nuln Oil on top. It's pretty great. So yeah, making sure it's all over the armour, the helmet, the sword. I'm basically covering everything. Not meant to cover the hair, but that's fine, we can paint that later. We can move up to some greys and whites. I'm not a NMM master, that takes quite a long time to master. I've only been painting for 2 years. I'm not going to be the best at doing NMM, but I am going to attempt something along the lines of it. Basically just using Asian grey as our main sort of base colour, keeping it thin. And then on points where I would think most reflection would be, there's a lot of theory behind NMM, which I have read and tried to understand, and it just takes a fair bit of practice to apply it in the real world. Just taking the Corax White and just slowly start bringing up the highlights on the metal, making sure you're getting strong edge highlighting, all the kind of points that are kind of spherical. You've kind of got these like points on them that are where the light emanates from and falls off. Yeah, and then kind of blending between them is the sort of like idea behind doing this, but I'm not the best at doing it. So after I did do all this, I kind of went back over what I did with some gunmetal, with a very, very small amount of gunmetal, and just dry brushed on a tiny amount to kind of give me a bit more metallic-y look over my attempt at NMM, just, to kind of even it out a bit more. And then I can take some gold and paint it over the chain. I can then basically do this light bounce effect on the sword, which basically is taking a white, light, bright source in different staggered points on the sword, then sort of blend it between the greys, and then taking some black, I can add it into the middle of the grey point on the sword, blend it out so you're kind of getting this staggered dark to light bounce on it. And then I can take the black and then I can start adding it across the body, making sure that I'm sort of bringing out those darker shadow parts of the armour. Then I can move on to some corn red, which is a sort of like nice, deep, pinky kind of red. And I'm going to add that to the cape to sort of bring out some more viscous, intense red colours to the highlights of it, just to sort of bring it away from the blood red and the dark shadow contrast underneath. Add in some white into the mix to kind of like add some highlights into it, and just start blending those highlights in a bit more so that we get a bit more interest and contrast on this cape, basically. Then I'm going to take some Xandri dust, which is a nice browny, sandy kind of colour, which I will use to paint the hair. Before I start highlighting it, I'm just going to add a bit of Seraphim Sepia to it, just to give it a bit of, a bit of grime, a bit of grunge, a bit of dark shading to it. And whilst that shader is drying, I'll take some Nuln Oil to give a bit more gloss and contrast to the armour, since I did apply a light dry brushing of metallic to it. And once that's all dried, I can go over the hair with some Ushapti Bone. Nice to have the camera in focus on it, but yeah, you can't win them all. Ushapti Bone is just a nice brighter bone colour, and then progressively work some whites in to create the highlights on the hair. And there we go, that is the Vileblood Knight. If you did enjoy today's episode, please be sure to drop it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, drop me a comment below. And if you want to support the channel further in any extracurricular ways, I do have a Patreon if you want to join me over there. I have lots of behind the scenes content of all the bigger videos that I do coming out with the larger dioramas and things. I sometimes put polls out of future projects that you can vote on if there's specific things that you want to see. And if not, that's absolutely fine. I just appreciate you joining me on the channel once again. And hopefully it gives you some ideas of how to paint your own models. I will see you next time for more Bloodborne stuff. Thanks very much. Bye bye.